Howard folk, my name is the Goblin, and today we're going to be looking at 10 things that could have made Skyrim a better game. Now in this video, we're not, completely hating on Skyrim. I mean, we're just having a bit of fun. At the end of the day, don't take this video completely seriously. Skyrim is a great game, I cannot deny that. I have 500 hours into the game, but really we're just looking at little things that may have just improved the gameplay a little bit, or maybe quite a lot. And we're also going to be looking at very unrealistic things which obviously couldn't have happened, because we're not going to acknowledge variables like how long it takes to make a game and all the technology you can pump into a game to make it, like, well, playable. Because we're just having a bit of fun, so just don't take it too seriously. And this video was essentially influenced by the comment section of my other video, which was looking at things that we want in the Elder Scrolls 6, and I thought I'd just give back to the community and look at everyone, go through the comment section and basically compose a video of other people's opinions, because they were really on point, and I really wish I put them in the original video. And just lastly, before we begin, please like the video so that people actually see this video. If you are aware of the algorithm changes in YouTube, you have to like videos. Videos have to be liked before they're actually seen by their own subscribers these days. And be sure to throw a sub to watch out for my next video, where I'm going to be talking about my experience of interviewing a celebrity. Anyway, let's jump in. Now, this point was brought up by the comment section. Basically, this guy had the idea that he kind of didn't like how when you kill loads, like hundreds of people in a town, and then all you have to do is really pay a bit of gold, and it's like that's kind of realistic. If you went around on a massive rampage, you'd be hanged. You'd be like cut open and quartered, and like bloody William Wallace or something. So he kind of came up with the idea like, right, you cannot pay off your bounty. You basically, if you get a bounty so high, you have to go out into the wilds and live as an outlaw. Like, being an outlaw, being a bandit, like, kind of works like its own guild. You're in like a fortress of bandits, robbing caravans and stuff just to stay alive, and you have to earn your freedom by. It would be interesting if you could earn your freedom by basically being kind of like a vigilante kind of person and turning in other bandits. So you're like, right, you have to capture a bandit, like a really wanted bandit, and kind of turn him in alive. So you have to capture him, and then you take him to like Whiterun, and then you're like, oh right, okay, we'll let you off because you kind of got this guy who was worse than you. I think that would be like a cool thing to implement if your bounty, like basically an extra like quest line, and then extra gameplay experience if your bounty got ridiculously high. Second point, we did make in the other video, but I'm just kind of got a new kind of version, a new kind of idea, and that is simply survival kind of mechanics. I was thinking, perhaps don't make it horrible, like you don't eat, you die. Make it so that when you eat, you get like a slight health buff, and if you drink, you get a slight stamina buff. And yeah, so you like it basically gives a point to the food in the game. There's a lot of food in the game, and there's this like this own this cooking skill. If it kind of felt like they threw the cooking skill in there, but originally they were going to make kind of like a more survival kind of mechanic thing in the game, because if you look at Fallout New Vegas, it has a hardcore mode, which is basically turns the game into a survival game. Maybe they were going to implement something like that. I was thinking like survival skills would have its own skill tree, and you can make better food to make better buffs, and as you went up the perk tree, as you increase the skill, you would get hungry and thirsty like a lot slower. And be able to craft things to survive from the cold, because let's be honest, Frostfall should have just been in the game. It should have just been in the game, like mandatory. Now, my third thing is basically a story point. Story, story doesn't have to be particularly complicated in a fantasy RPG. Really, it's all about going on adventures and immersing yourself into a world and killing dragons and saving princesses. That's all it's about. That's all it really should be about. But the thing is, in Skyrim, the characters were they were just boring. I found all the characters kind of boring, very bland, very kind of, I mean, they barely had any substance. It just felt like they were plot devices and exposition dumps. So like, you go to this guy, he tells you to go here, or you go to this guy to unlock this certain thing, and there's no real complexity or inner conflict to the characters. I mean, just look at Witcher 3. All the characters in Witcher 3 have like really intricate, interesting backstories, interesting their own opinions and beliefs, and they disagree with you, they agree with you, and you can piss them off, you can make them love you. It's the characters are just a lot more complex and more interesting to interact with. I mean, I think the fact that in Skyrim that your character can't speak, it also just kind of it means your character isn't really a character, and it just kind of wastes a lot of potential to make a good story within a game if your character can't actually speak and he isn't really properly characterized. And this leads on to another story point. I was thinking, why didn't the game have more choices and consequences to those choices? Like, there could have been different outcomes for certain quests. I mean, there were some, like a little few, but really, I mean, what, like, you end the Thieves Guild, you either get a skeleton key or you don't. Really, it's just like a reward change. There wasn't really any proper consequences or differences when you completed quest lines, you know. I was thinking, like, making them a little bit more interesting, like, perhaps certain characters die or certain characters live. I mean, the world and characters in the game should basically change depending on your choices. I mean, look at the Civil War. Like, if you support Ulfric Stormcloak, then you will find Stormcloaks all around the world, you know, protecting holds, and that is a really good thing. Like, depending on your options in the war, then the world is going to change. I think the game basically needed more of that, you know. Now, this next one, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. Probably should put numbers on this list. This is really more of a personal one, but I think a lot of people may be interested in this. This was a kind of a thing you could do in Oblivion. But essentially, there should be more of an option to become more of a bard kind of character. I mean, what my idea was kind of like, instead of going into a bandit camp, or in a bandit fortress, getting your swords out and just killing everybody, perhaps you could negotiate yourself in there. Perhaps you can turn up and say, hey, I want to be a bandit, I want to join your clan, and lie to them, and then get your way in there depending on your speech skill. You could get in there and wait for like some kind of moment where the bandit is in his sleep or something. You can poison him in his sleep or kill him in his sleep. I don't think you can poison someone in his sleep actually. But yeah, you could like negotiate. What if you could like negotiate your way through dungeons with the speech skill? Because I think the speech skill is a little wasted. Really, it's only about money and merchants and stuff like that. I mean, if you look at the Fallout games, it really changes the gameplay a lot. You can basically skip killing a lot of people if your persuasion skill is pretty high. And maybe, you know, extend the bard idea a bit more, and perhaps you could basically, or maybe you could just like sit there and play music and boost everyone's morale. Perhaps you could have more than one companion if there was like a bard skill tree, and you could just basically sit there and buff everyone, but buff like your companions if you could have more than one, and then your companions do all the fighting for you and you're really there to just buff them up. I mean, that could be an interesting kind of playstyle. Now, for my sixth reason, it is something I really didn't like about Skyrim was there is a certain restriction with being a mage. I'm going to call it the mage restriction, because it was always better to wear robes. The robes, like, you could find these robes which gave you really, really good enchantments and reduced the mana cost and everything. And, you know, it was kind of annoying because, like, I'm sat there thinking, I'm going to die in one shot. I want to put some heavy armor on like you could in Oblivion. I mean, what you could do is fully upgrade your enchanting skill and duplicate that enchantment, you know, onto armor, but it was never really as good as wearing a robe, because when you wore a robe you got a little bit more of a boost, and I don't know if you could live without it, but it was kind of, it just felt like you had to go for the robes. I also didn't like how, if you're using a bow or a two-handed weapon or a weapon and a shield, that you essentially just couldn't use magic that much, unless you switch things around, which is kind of annoying, and you couldn't really do that, you know, because you've got an axe about like a millisecond from being smashed into your face. Like, magic was a separate function in Oblivion, and I much preferred it. Like, you'd have like a two-handed sword, and then you'd still be able to, you'd like hold the sword in your right arm and then just get some magic out of your left arm, or even if it had a sword and a shield, you would just still be able to swing the magic out. I mean, maybe you could shoot the firebolts or the lightning bolts outside of your sword, so it would like channel through your sword and blast out the other end. I mean, maybe that could just be a cosmetic thing to look pretty cool, or it could actually change the gameplay slightly. Like, if you wore a weapon while you use magic, it changes the magic slightly. It might be more interesting. Maybe it nerfed it slightly, so it wasn't like if you use magic without a weapon it would do more damage, but if you use it with a weapon it would do less damage. Just so you could still mix things up a bit more, mix the magic up with your two-handed, basically the ability to mix the skills up a bit more like you can in Oblivion and make your own unique and interesting builds. Because I do think there was a few certain restrictions on builds. Now for my 7th reason, I'm also going to be referring to Oblivion. Oblivion basically had these mini guilds. They weren't these guilds which had a really long quest line, like the Thieves Guild and the Fighters Guild and all that kind of stuff, but it had one long quest line. And basically once you complete that long quest line, it was just like, well, it wasn't really a long quest, it was just like a quest. And then at the end you became a member of this faction, and you kind of got these perks and you got these little mini objectives after you completed the storyline. Like for instance, there was this guild called Order of the Virtuous Blood, which is basically a vampire slaying guild. I mean, that would be pretty dope. I mean, well, yeah, you have Dawnguard, don't you? But it was basically essentially like Dawnguard, and after you complete the quest, basically, if you have you basically able to turn in vampire dust for gold, and it was quite a lot of gold, so it's a great way to make money. It would be evidence that you killed a vampire and you go and turn it in for some gold. I think that was a pretty cool thing. Just little guilds like that, because obviously, you know, you did have factions in Skyrim which you couldn't join, and maybe you just could have joined them a little bit and got some little mini objectives. Now his next thing was also influenced by a comment. The comment basically said you should have to earn your quest markers, and I think there was some kind of reference like you had to earn quest markers in Morrowind, and I guess you did have to also do that in Oblivion. But in Skyrim you were really spoon-fed your quest markers. Obviously that makes the game a bit less challenging, which is probably what they were trying to aim for. But you know, you're just giving them. I think what you should have been able to do is basically go around and actually ask people, like, so say for instance, right, you have to find this person, right, you don't know where he is. There is a moment in Skyrim where you actually have to ask for the location of a courier, the Imperial Courier, and you have to go and ask for local innkeepers for his location. I mean, there should have been a lot more of that. You know, asking innkeepers, asking anyone, like pickpockets or thieves, to find out where people are, find out your quest markers, or even go into a library. Perhaps there could have been more libraries in the game where you actually have to find out information about ancient history, and like, where is this like unique, awesome sword that was crafted by the dwarves thousands of years ago? Oh, let's go and look at this book for any clues, you know. And there was a little bit of it in Skyrim, fair enough, but I think there should have been a lot more. It just kind of feels like it's getting less and less as the games progress. Maybe in Neos Row 6 there just won't be anything, which would be a real shame. And this next one, the second to last point, was also influenced by the comment section. Basically the comment was cities with more than 20 people, which is a very good point. Fair enough, like, you've got a technology limitation there, you know, the more NPCs in one place at once would basically make the game a little laggier, which is kind of a problem. But I definitely think there should have been filler NPCs, because all the NPCs feel like they're actually linked to some kind of story plot or something like that. If they all have names, I think there should have been a few in the filler NPCs like there isn't. I mean, just look at Novigrad. When you walk through Novigrad, you really think you are walking through a medieval city. It's huge, there's loads of people with pickpockets and thieves, and everything that a medieval city should have is there. And I think these filler NPCs shouldn't just be there. I think they should also be interacted with. Like, perhaps you also have to ask these filler NPCs for information about quest locations. Like, a quest tells you that, oh, the pickpockets in this town may know what you're looking for, so you go and ask all the pickpockets, or you go and ask for travelling merchants, or you ask for local bakers for information. Like, that's what the quest could tell you. Like, go and ask these people for information, go and interview them, use your bard skill to find out more information about them without having to pay them, or do a job for them to convince them to help you, you know, that kind of thing. We could also interact with mini guild objectives, like for instance, well, when I was talking about the vampire slaying, perhaps in the Dawnguard, when you complete the Dawnguard quest, you get extra assignments to kind of go into little towns and do investigations to find out who is a vampire in that town, or one of the filler NPCs would be a vampire and you have to go and kill them. I mean, that'd be pretty dope. And this idea goes hand in hand with my last idea, which is completely crazy, right? Fair enough, you can say it's completely crazy, it is completely crazy. And basically he's thinking of a similar idea to Fallout, where you can build your own settlement. And I was thinking you could take it a little bit further, and you don't just build a settlement, you build a village, and then you upgrade it to a town, you upgrade it to a city, and you can go into the towns to find these filler NPCs in the town and recruit guards, recruit farmers, recruit shopkeepers and stuff like that to come into your town. Fair enough, that may make the game a little bit more of a simulation game, but I think a combination of like an RPG adventure game and a simulation game, I think it would work well. Because, you know, when you're not going through the storyline and killing monsters and stuff, you do want kind of something to fill in the content so you don't rush through that content really quickly. That's why I think anyway. What other points? Yeah, I was also thinking perhaps it could offer like a fourth option to the main storyline. Like, you don't join the Stormcloaks, you don't join the Imperials, you don't remain neutral, you literally make your own hold, you make your own army, and you kill all the Stormcloaks, you kill all the Imperials, and you take Skyrim for your own. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. And you could appoint your own Jarls, kill all the Jarls, and like properly take over the world, take over Skyrim. I mean, yeah. I mean, fair enough, that is like a little bit of a crazy idea, but I think maybe I'm thinking of a new game. Like, a new game could have that kind of thing, and that's probably best. But maybe like Elder Scrolls 6 will have something more like that. You can literally just, because Fallout 4 nearly got there, and perhaps you can, in Elder Scrolls 6, you're going to be able to get the option to do that. I mean, that would be pretty good, and it'll warrant me actually buying it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna end the video there. As always, guys, check out the video link in the description for more similar videos. My name is the Metagoblin, and until my next video, ciao.